wrong agenda?
Yep.
Oh, I pictured you the old one.
Give you an A for
You had him
effort.
under administrative, though.
Okay, yeah, we're fine.
It's right there, see it?
Okay, he's right up, he's underneath
After you
Katie's.
sign the
Okay.
Mylars, you
Yep.
can talk to Doug.
Okay. All right, we ready? We're ready. We're opening up the meeting of the Chelmsford Planning Board of Wednesday, May 8th, 2019. First thing on the agenda, Chelmsford Retail Management LLC. Katie Enright requests endorsement of the Mylars for the project at 2129 Drum Hill Road. We got one.
One letter. It's
One
right
letter.
behind you. Isn't that it?
Yeah, that's Mike Shrub.
There's no box today, there's so little.
All right, are you ready? Have at it. Okay.
From Gary Persichetti. Dear members, this office has reviewed the site plans by Howard Stein Hudson Associates consisting of 9 sheets dated January 17, 2019, revised through April 29, 2019, and a supplemental data report dated January 2019, revised through April 2019. This office's concerns have been met sufficiently and the plans have been revised accordingly. We recommend endorsement of the Mylars. If you have any questions, please contact this office. Sincerely, Christina Papadopoulos.
Okay, we got any discussion on the Mylars, or we want to make a motion?
I move to direct signing of the Mylars.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next thing up is Attorney Hausler. A discussion on, I can't see what it is, preliminary information, discussion of Charles Way up off of North Road. Have at it, Doug.
Okay, so for your records, Douglas Hausler from Lamford, Hausler and Robin. I represent the property owner, Michael Shaheen, who owns the existing single-family home and the land on the southerly side, I believe it would be, of Charles Way. This property has been discussed and reviewed in various different contexts for the last 20-plus years. So he's finally ready to go forward with some type of development. So there were 2 or 3 preliminary issues I want to talk to the town about in a public setting to get your feedback before my client goes spending a ton more money on engineering and feasibility and what the requirements might be to allow development of the parcel. Charles Way is not an accepted road in Chelmsford, notwithstanding the fact that it looks like a road that's been around for 35, 40 years. It was built, I believe, in the mid-1980s by a developer named Charles Morgan, and another developer that was with him was Charles Enyon. And they built all the homes on, I would guess, the northerly side, yes, the northerly side of Charles Way, and sold them off. And at the time that they were doing it, they had posted a bond for the road so that the road could be completed, and, final top coats and monumentation and as-built would be delivered to the town in the normal course. Except in about 1988, the bank that was supplying the bond failed. And hence the bond disappeared, and hence the developer also disappeared because he had sold almost all, if not all, of the lots. So the town had issued occupancy permits for all the homes, but never got an as-built, never got the proper monumentation for Charles Way, and never accepted it, put it before town meeting to be accepted because of that. Notwithstanding all that history, I don't know how the town has done this in past administrations. This is no reflection of current. This is the Bernie Lynch, Andy Sheehan era of things. Water lines went through, sewer lines went through, even though there's nobody could give an easement. I don't understand how that happened, but it did. So we're now at the point, some 35 years later, where my client wants to develop his property, but Charles Way is not yet a public way. So we need to get frontage on the public way. We've had preliminary discussions off and on with the town and talking about concepts of how to get Charles Way accepted. And primarily it's a question of who's going to do the work and who's going to pay for it. So I was informed a couple of times by various meetings that the concept was, well, my client would put up the funds, post the bond, and put up the funds to get all the work done, so Charles Way could be accepted, and then he could then come in with a subdivision plan and go forward. The problem with that, as any of you, if you were in his shoes, is why would he put up a substantial 6 figures and then some, perhaps, only to be told, oh, by the way, you're going to get 4 lots, 5 lots. So I want to do that in conjunction. I want to work with the town, but I want to have an ability to give some insurance to the client that he knows at the end of the day, he's got an 8-lot subdivision or a 9-lot subdivision, whatever it may be. And I thought we should go before the board, because I think the equitable way to do this is a 3 or 4 step process. The first step is, the town could have, if it really wanted to be tough, and I understand the road is at a point where it needs substantial work. It's failing in a lot of different areas. The town could say to all the abutters, your occupancy permits are moot, they're gone, because they don't have a public road. That's a pretty tough thing to say to people that have been living there for 30-plus years, so. But that, they need to get the road accepted at some point, and so do my clients. My client would say, I'm willing to participate in completing Charles Way, but I don't think my client should have to pay 100% of the tab. So he's gonna use half of it. He's on the south side, the other abutters are on the north side. My proposal would be for the town to agree to do its 50%, which it should have done in the 1980s when it failed. They should never have issued the occupancy permits. It put all those people at risk. I don't know how titles have been passed. I mean, technically, there is no frontage because it's not on an approved public way. So I have some difficulty with it, but I thought the way to solve the problem, not create more problems, was my client would put up 50% of whatever the total cost is, and I believe the town engineering department, Steve Yonley, has already done a lot of the computations of what it would cost that the town would require for the monumentation, the curving, final coats, and any of the repairs for some of the other underlying things. And it's gonna be a number, X number, and my client would post half, and the town would have to come up with half, solve the problem, and get it done. And then, in conjunction with that, I would like to go before your board at a formal meeting, once we have that kind of ironed out, which I don't think should take very long, quite frankly. And then come before this board and say, here is a definitive subdivision plan, and the only condition I would ask about that plan is that it would be approved subject to the town approving Charles Way as a public road. So we have that in our pocket, and then my client can make the investment, and everybody goes on, and I think that's a win-win. I'm not trying to take advantage of anybody, I'm not trying to give my client an unfair advantage over the town. It solves the problem with all the abutters on the other side. Whether they like that or not, this property is subject to being developed. And now you see Old Town Way here somewhat highlighted. So let me talk about that as well, and then I'll be happy to start taking some questions. Well, first of all, there are at least 2 lots that would be considered A and R lots because they have frontage on North Road.
Right.
So that part's easy. The remaining lots, this shows that we would get frontage off a proposed cul-de-sac, which we would ask for a waiver down a common driveway, but get the frontage off that for these 2 lots. And then the rest of these 4 lots at least would be 150 feet, typical, totally compliant in zoning. If that didn't work for whatever reason, my client does have the right to develop out Old Town Way. It's expensive, but he can do it. But to me, that's wasted money. I mean, yes, it might cost him more money to do that, but it certainly never solves the problem of Charles Way. It certainly doesn't solve the problem for these folks. It doesn't solve the town's problem, which is continuing to plow it and provide services to it, when it is in fact probably a private road. So I want to solve the problems by doing it this way. My client's totally willing to be engaged with the town to come to a resolution, get it formalized, come before your board. I think it's a conventional subdivision for the most part. The Old Town Way, my client would be using his half of the Old Town Way, because he's entitled to, and it's never gonna get built out because, as you know, I believe this is the Russell Laporte's family built up here at
Yep.
the end of the cul-de-sac. So they built that kind of killed Old Town Way going further west. So it's never gonna get built out, so my clients would take their half of the Old Town Way. Now, what's interesting, the other half of Old Town Way is not registered land, but all these properties along here are registered land parcels. Just the way it worked. I would have thought that they would have somehow tried to include in the registered land portion that one half, I call it the undivided half interest in the fee of Old Town Way, but it's not on the land court side. So my client wouldn't infringe on the abutter's other half of that. He'd just use his half. And that creates a very viable, nice, beautiful subdivision, totally compliant with area setbacks of all sorts, front yard, rear yard. And it's entirely consistent, those kinds of 1 acre lots, very consistent with the lots that are up on Charles Way already.
Yep.
Similar types homes would be built. There are two other little curves maybe, or things to think about. So this shows that portion of the Old Town Way that would be absorbed by my client. That's included on this plan. And this shows what the current, the whole site looks like.
Okay.
So, I forget how total acreage here, 8.17 acres,
Okay.
okay?
8.17, and you're putting in 8 lots.
Right, and because we could use Charles
Right.
Way to the frontage, et cetera. Now, 2 points. One of the big issues for the town has been drainage on Charles Way. That is the big bugaboo for the town. And there is an existing detention pond on property owned by Ally. And she has, she's actually put her property up for sale. My client has had discussions with her, and it really depends on what the town wants to do. The town may want to acquire this, this parcel of her property, because then it could manage the drainage systems better. And my client is willing to work to acquire that, so we could put that as part of the town, way to solve some of the drainage problems. And by having that piece of land available, would probably make the acceptance of this road a lot easier, because it's the drainage that's been a big problem up there. And I guess the butters have had problems, and the town's had problems, and it's failing.
What does that retention pond do now?
Honestly, I'm not sure if it's fully functioning, because I know that she's suffered some flooding. It hasn't worked the way it should have.
Okay.
Now, John Farnsworth, who did these plans, is very aware of this, and he can give much more detail when we go to public hearing. But I thought the goal might be to, and there's another approach to this, which is a land swap with Miss Ally that would give some of our North Road frontage to her, and we'd get an extra lot out over here. There's a couple of ways to look at it. I prefer not to get that complicated. There's other ways to do it. I'm trying to go with the most, I guess, basic way to do it. And I think that's to get these 8 lots, make a deal with this extra parcel, because this can be entirely, her existing home can remain compliant, 1 acre. It's that excess land that would arrange for the detention area to be properly engineered using current methods. And I believe collectively that would get to the town to a very good spot. But I don't want to have my client spend any of that kind of money with the engineering plans and discussions and drafting of agreements. If there are concerns that we haven't thought of, that the board might say, well, what about, A or B or C or D? We'd rather get all those kind of comments, start getting them now, so we can make a complete submission that's a package that everybody's gonna like.
Okay.
That's the concept, and
All right.
thank you for your time on that.
Very good. So with that being said, why don't we run it around a little discussion and see what everybody thinks? Start with Nan. If Nan wants to start off, and we'll run right around.
I don't even know where to start on this one. Go ahead. I may come back to it.
Okay.
The question I have on the worksheet that they have, the illustration, on the colored areas, is that the position of where the house would go, or?
No,
Why are they all different angles, in different
because
ways?
it's an engineer who's not familiar with the town of Chelmsford's usual submittals.
Okay, I just didn't know what the thought process was, with why that,
I honestly, I don't know. I would plan on having him revise the plan to show you the building envelope on every single lot, and it's easily done.
Which will be further down the road, but
Yeah. I don't know why he did it this way. I can't explain.
Isn't that just the basic of what you need for a lot, and they just kind of tried to figure it in?
Yeah, I think he
Yeah.
just said, how do I get the frontage and the area first and foremost?
Yeah.
And then, but just by the way you look at these lots, you can see a home can be built that satisfies based on the scale. So, I think there was a scale on
Yeah,
this.
43,000 square feet per lot or something.
I think he used
50
40 or
feet.
41, I think, but the scale's 1 inch equals 50.
Yeah.
So, any way you look at it, we're gonna be able to hit all the requirements of the zoning act, bylaw.
Looks eminently reasonable to me. As a matter of fact, as soon as you started talking, I thought to myself, why don't the guys on the south side pay half of it? It seemed reasonable to me. I don't see any particular problem with it at this point. It looks as if it comes to us for an 8-lot subdivision, it looks as if there's plenty of space there. What is exactly the wetland situation, other than, around that detention pond?
I
You
believe
know?
it's, I
pretty
believe
cool.
it's been mapped in prior years, and I don't know if
Yeah.
it needs to be done, flagged again. But my understanding is the only real wetland area is.
Is that one? Yeah, that's what I guessed.
I agree with that.
Okay.
John, I have to defer those kind of engineering questions to John.
Yeah, well, just as long as a large part of it isn't wetlands, I would think if they're a little
It's
corner
not,
here and
I've
there.
worked up in that area.
Okay.
It's not wet up there.
I don't believe there are wetlands up there, and the other part, John would have to obviously give you all the drainage calculations, and he would do that in conjunction with redeveloping the
Yeah.
Chelmsford stormwater management systems. So,
Well, we can't tell the town to spend the money, but it might be
Well,
a very good idea.
I understand that, but you
Yeah.
know what, that's one of the reasons I came before the board. I know you don't have that authority. I absolutely understand that, but I do think if this board was in a position where it said it liked the idea and it solves some problems that were created by predecessor boards of 40 years ago, along with other departments, it solves a problem. And if we could encourage the town
Yeah.
to do that,
There's no wetlands.
No wetland, I didn't think there was. Yeah, well, basically, my view is, at this stage of the game, this looks eminently reasonable, and I don't see any reason why you wouldn't go forward.
and just so we know, I'd be willing to work with the town
Yeah.
with respect to, if the money had to be put up by my client to get the work done, some way of getting it reimbursed, or,
Yeah.
I think there are ways to figure out the financing of the actual work, but I'd like to get the commitment from the town that it acknowledges it has some liability from these
Yeah.
past mistakes, and we just want to get it solved.
Yeah.
Because it's not helping the other, it doesn't help the abutters.
Well, what would that would be, a recommendation by us to the selectmen
That's
or
all,
something like
just a
that?
recommendation,
Yeah.
that's all.
I don't see a problem with that.
Henry?
I didn't think our recommendations carried that much weight.
Well, there's that problem, but.
Yeah, no, the wetlands and, there's a problem up there. Hopefully they can solve it. All we can do is, you meet your lot area and stuff. I'd be interested to see a full blown out plan when you finally get to that point.
Yep.
But I have no issues right now.
You say the road's being treated as a regular road now, being plowed?
The town maintains it, in terms of plowing, sanding, other
Just-
services, which I don't understand. I previously represented the alley and her parents, the Currys, with respect to this property. And in about 2006, 7, 8, we had some discussions with abutters about trying to subdivide this land at one point. And that's when I learned all about the problems with this, and I tried to address some points back then. I think it was right before Paul got appointed as town manager, so it could be even earlier. And it was before Evan, I believe. So, we couldn't get anywhere with former administration, is a nice way to say it. So the Currys dropped it, and at that point, my current client had no desire to do anything with the land. He wanted to wait. But now he's at that point of his life where he wants to go forward and do something.
And it would make sense too, if it becomes a road, then they would get more money, right, from the state? Is that what they said
Yeah, it'd be
too?
counted towards chapter nine.
By the way, do you know if this is even on the list of roads queued up for investigation?
No.
No,
It's not even on the list, huh?
the town will not spend the money out there
Mm-hmm.
under the,
Yeah.
the current conditions, current status.
Okay. You got any questions, Don?
No, maybe a comment. It would be fantastic, and Doug, if I understand you correctly, obviously, the day-to-day operation maintenance of the road is handled by town, but that road itself needs upgrade,
Yes,
right, at a certain dollar amount. It would be great for both the north and south side.
absolutely.
That this matter was resolved after so many years, for sure. Do you know, it's probably a little early, Doug, but do you know what actually he's proposing as far as bedrooms and?
I think it would be, the 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath.
There'll be big houses up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, to be
Yeah.
consistent with what's already up there, to be
Yeah.
honest. These will be beautiful lots.
Yeah.
It is a tough site in with respect to the topography, because it's the hill.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be a fair amount of earth moving work involved, but that's what engineers are for. And I'm assured it can be done. I'm sure there'll be cuts, but they'll get there.
Yep.
But we're trying to make this as, pretty straightforward as we can.
All right. Hank, you got anything?
Well, I think he's got the setbacks on it. I don't see how you're gonna get the town to pay 50%. I mean, that would be the sticking point. I think it's a good project myself, but like you said, we can't dictate to the town what to spend
No,
on.
you can't, and I absolutely respect the allocation of powers and who has what. And I know the selectmen have to make the recommendations for expenditures such as this. But it's a problem that's just been, it's a can that's been kicked down the road for 40 years.
Yep.
My client's willing to contribute to that, and I understand the town's position. It doesn't feel like it should absorb 100% of the cost. I
Right.
totally get it. And, probably technically, they could require the abutters to contribute. We avoid that problem if the town works with us. And there's a variety of ways they could do it. It may not require a monetary contribution. It could be that the town devotes some of its resources, its personnel, its materials, whatever it has, towards doing the monumentation, doing some of the labor. There's a number of ways that we could probably get to a yes.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily I'm asking the town to dole out money. I don't
Right.
think that, I don't think that's ever gonna happen. I think it should, but it won't. But I do think the town could contribute a lot of the labor and materials.
Okay, I got a question for you, Evan, and it might be something you can run by town council. My thought on private ways were, if there was more than 3 houses on a private way, it automatically got dropped in the town's lap to maintain that road.
So I'm not even sure this is classified as a private way.
This is just,
I mean, it was approved
This is
and
just a
built,
something.
intended to be a public way.
right,
And then as Attorney Hausler mentioned, I'm not sure what it's legally classified as right now.
okay. But with that being said, that gives a little meat for the town to look at and say, hey, all right, maybe we should jump on board with this, get it done, get it fixed.
Yeah, there's no question, and I've sat in these meetings over the last couple of years. The town is interested, as Attorney Hausler mentioned, in finding a solution to this.
Okay.
That's why you did not hear Attorney Hausler mention that the town dismissed a cost sharing. Nothing's been dismissed.
Absolutely, it's not. That's 100% true.
Okay.
In fact, I want to be honest, Evan and Planning Department have been nothing but very easy to work with and open to discussion and some points to consider.
So essentially, the client was tasked with bringing some plans forward, which I think tonight's meeting serves as that forum, and ultimately then go back to the town manager and board of selectmen to try to begin working out some sort of, agreement.
Right. I think down the road, I think either way, it looks to me as if the project is going to go forward, because they can come in with the old town way, get that accepted as a town road. Now the town's gonna have to plow both of them and maintain both, you know what I mean? It's the money that they're gonna waste on that would be much better spent on that. So with that said, do we wanna do like a conceptual,
And maybe a straw poll?
drop.
Would that be
a
sufficient?
conceptual-
Yeah,
And
I'm
recommendation to
I'm
the,
certainly not looking for.
Just
the
to
board-
give you,
Just some feedback. I appreciate the
Okay.
comments I've heard already. Before we did that, though, I know Nan wanted a chance to look at the
Come back
plan.
and-
Yeah.
So if you don't mind.
yeah, have
Yeah,
at
I-
it, Nan.
I have at least one question. In terms of Charles Way, why does it have the double turnout, and do you have to build in that second turnout?
This one,
This one and that one.
that's already there.
They're both there.
That's, no, this was, trying to think what it was.
An extension.
The extension of the cul-de-sac by the Russ Laporte, I believe.
Right,
could
I
be
think
wrong.
it was, yeah.
I could be wrong. So it was an extension of this, because his home's up here, or several homes maybe up here.
And then it's only on paper if you look at the map. It's just a
Okay.
layout,
Ah,
a private
Alright.
way
okay.
to create frontage.
It was to create frontage on those lots.
So we created it. So it's a paper turnout.
paper cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
This one's real, this one.
That one's,
Yep.
Yeah,
okay.
one's real and one isn't.
Yeah.
But just like we're asking here, the waiver down.
Yeah,
That's,
okay. All
Okay.
right. No, I don't think I have any other questions
you
on
good?
that.
So, with that being said, is what you got out of us good enough for you to
I
go
think it's
forward?
it's
And
very helpful.
I think we're,
Yeah.
looking around, I think everybody here thinks it's a good project. I think it's something to start with.
And the only other question I have, and I don't know if this is appropriate or not, and Evan can tell me otherwise, is if we were to have these discussions, formal discussions with the town about allocating the costs and the development, and would a member of this board participate in that discussion as the representative of this board?
Yeah,
So
I'll do
that
that.
could, so it could feed back information as appropriate.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure all the, this is what I call stakeholders have a seat at the table, and we are hearing all the concerns.
So you want one of us to the selectmen meeting when you bring it in front of the selectmen, is what you're saying?
Minimum.
We can make that happen.
If it's out of the ordinary, I don't want to do something.
No.
No, I'm at most of them anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think there's a problem with that.
I didn't know, you had any comments about what we've submitted?
No, we've been working at it for a couple of years now.
And you have enough, yeah,
I just have a very brief question.
through the
Yeah,
chair.
you- There's a, being a public meeting, yeah, just one, go ahead.
Yes, regarding sewer, is the sewer system already?
Sewer's already up there.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
did the
it would-
street.
All the
yes,
utilities are already up that road.
All the utilities are there, and with sewer, we'd have to tap into the line. I have to check on,
But they never
see,
accept
when the
it.
road's being done, we'd have to check into the size of the line. But my guess is,
It's probably an 8-inch sewer.
my guess is that when they put the line in,
Yeah.
they anticipated this being built out.
Yeah.
'Cause this, I know this was included on the inventory potentially.
Yeah, it's been on for years.
Even if it was a 6-inch sewer line, it'd probably be big enough for all those
Pay the
houses.
normal sewer fees for, betterments and tying in.
I'm just curious, I'm not
No.
familiar with the property.
Sure,
Okay,
thank you.
all right, so I
That's,
think when you're ready with the selectmen, give us a shout. and
okay, is there a particular person who you want to designate, or?
I'll go, Henry, both of us, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
From where Mike wants to go,
I'll be glad.
I'll go with it.
We'll get somebody there.
I just, whoever it is, just let me know through Evan.
Yeah,
So-
we just need a date.
Yeah.
Well,
Do we
yeah,
have a
to get
date?
you- We have to get.
No, no.
No, so it's hard for us to say without having at least a date in front of us.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time.
Okay.
I appreciate it, so we can move forward, with some assurances of where we're going.
Yeah, I
All right,
think you'll be
thanks.
fine.
Have a nice night.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. That being done, what do we got?
Town meeting debrief?
Town meeting debrief. What do we got on that, Colleen? Kevin,
I just put that on there in case anybody wanted
anybody want to
to
talk about the town meeting?
have
We
any,
survived it. Hallelujah.
I think you guys got kudos.
I watched it.
I think we did well.
Well, what I would say about it is, NEMCOG had something, I've sent it out to a few board members, is that, the governor is pushing, an agenda to make housing a little easier. Something that we think about, it's coming down the road. Basically, right now, to do a zoning change, we need 2/3 vote. What the governor is proposing is a simple majority. NIMCOG's bringing it up. It's coming. I don't know any timeframes. I don't know if it'll be in time for the fall town meeting or what's coming, but some of the votes that we've needed 2/3 votes for are very well maybe going away, maybe easy to pass some projects. That was just a NEMCOG thing that's coming along. Some of you I know are already aware of it, and some people aren't, so.
Okay, that's it on the town meeting. What do we get for the future zoning initiatives? Anybody got anything we want to bring up on that, or?
So the only ones that I've penciled in here are potentially Route 40,
Yep,
potentially UMass West. The UMass West is likely going to be property owner driven. And then the final one is the continuation of the historical,
That's still
Article.
being worked.
so that maybe that's ready for fall.
have you heard any input on the Route 40, the housing things that are all in the bank foreclosure?
Or auction, or whatever.
Yeah, I think the auction, I think it was canceled today. Did
That's
you?
correct, yep.
Yeah,
It was
but-
canceled earlier in the week,
Okay.
but there was no one there today.
Due to,
So,
I believe they settled,
they
Yeah.
settled, okay.
so,
I guess. I don't know.
the woman named Winland is the sole owner at this point. And she had made contact with Town Hall today to let us know that she's a sole owner. She's been attending the Route 40 committee meetings. She's well aware of what's being proposed. And that was basically it.
Is she on board with the Route 40?
I think she's still.
Or is she on the other side?
She's made it clear that she would like the south side included, but
Yeah.
I think what's being proposed on the north side, it seems like she's amenable.
Okay.
Clearly, she's still trying to, understand what are the pros and cons.
Yep.
But I've mentioned to her that the Route 40 committee is wrapping up. They'll likely be in front of the planning board sometime in June.
Yep.
I told her that will likely be her next opportunity, as well as anyone else, to engage with the planning board.
Okay.
And then if the planning board chooses to move it forward, there'll be a public hearing in August or September, another time to engage.
All right,
Yeah, that's pretty much the impression I've got. I've talked to her several times at the Route 40 meetings.
all right. Well, that's good to know.
So that does bring up another topic for conversation, and that is West Campus.
Okay.
So if you have April 7th, you're looking at June, when that property is expected to close. And at one time, the proposal possibly was for senior housing. And what ramifications would that then have on any proposal from the Route 40 Study Committee on the north side regarding senior housing? So just something to think about.
Okay, I see what you're saying, yeah. All right. Okay.
I got one other thing to add, we may want to think about in the future. When we were doing a lot of these developments, we've had the 40B hanging over our head for a long time. It's not hanging there now. So we actually have an opportunity to maybe be a little more creative. And maybe enter into more negotiations with, if they come in and they say they want X, there's no reason why we have to give them X. If they want to get to X, what are they gonna do? I know the Princeton, the one next to the old mill, neighbors were all for it. I understand that. And if the neighbors weren't all for that, we probably would have had a real hard time. But at the same token, we probably could have headed into a little bit more negotiation with them. I did take and talk to town council about affordable on that. And he said basically we can't force it on them. But, I'm talking to Evan, go back and forth. There is a negotiation process that we can take and enter in. And I just wonder if we're entering into the negotiation process as much as we should on some of these coming forwards. I mean, I know all the ones up to now we've had, the 168 Mill Road is a good example of it. if that went out the door, that was gonna turn around and come right back as a 40B. There was no doubt in it, and that was hanging over all of us. Just something to think about, you know, maybe we should start thinking a little bit out of the box. I know there's been a push for more 40R in town, you know, retirement-type housing. I know the Housing Authority was gonna buy the property on Richardson Road, but the state's actually came up with an independent operator that's gonna take that over, which actually frees up a little bit of funding in the town that's available for some of this stuff, but, I'm just thinking, we can't totally forget about affordable housing, because we're gonna have, it's gonna come back in to get you as soon as, you know, the next, I think we get a 3-year.
Well, a question on that. Is the 2020 census likely to generate numbers that are going to affect that? And I bet the answer is maybe yes.
We projected, even after the 2020 census comes out, that will be slightly over 10%.
Good, okay, so at least for the next
We got
couple
a
of
few
years, we're
years.
okay.
Right, right.
But I just think we need to be a little bit proactive, and we need to think outside the box, you know? And if outside the box means that we get more affordable senior housing in town,
Yeah.
maybe the thing is to let builders know that if that's what they want, if they want to go down this road for this type of density, we're going to be looking for different things.
Maybe it'd be worthwhile to get town council to give us like a list of what we can and can't do as far as we can ask for this or demand this or.
I think we can ask for, we can ask for the moon.
So I appreciate Henry's comments, and hopefully you're aware that I've always encouraged the board to leverage your legal discretion. Special permits give the planning board the authority to negotiate. So currently, back to Princeton Court, you weren't legally able to require or condition it, but as Henry mentioned, you can definitely negotiate. And that would have been a good example where if the board prioritized senior housing via that special permit process, you're well within your legal jurisdiction to negotiate. The other item is, if you recall, a couple of years ago now, we contemplated expanding inclusionary to capture pre-existing non-conforming projects. There are two kinds, structure and use. So Princeton Court was a use, Fairview was a structure. What council indicated at the time was that you could apply it to a pre-existing non-conforming structure, but not to the use. So that may be a regulatory item where the board wants to officially, amend the zoning bylaw to capture and expand inclusionary. And then at that point, pre-existing non-conforming structures would be applied to one or the other. I'm forgetting which one it is. You'd be legally entitled to require an affordability component.
Okay.
So that may be something we want to consider. But I agree with you. I think we're in a much better position from a 40B and regulatory perspective to really, for the board to be able to really mold these projects, particularly if a developer's coming to the table and they're saying my starting point is 18 units. And just for full disclosure, when we meet with these people, we do tell them that the planning board is likely to pursue, affordability component, maybe a senior housing component. I think the board is getting to that point now where you're ready,
Right.
to take advantage of your full discretion.
Yep, okay.
Certainly, we've worked hard for that point. To
Yeah.
get to this point with the 40B, and the town should obviously recognize that. And certainly, there's also some multifamily fatigue currently happening in Chelmsford as well. But to a point Henry made earlier, the governor has made housing choice, has made housing a mandate. And this is a great issue that he's very concerned about. And possibly today, we may not be concerned about it, but going forward, Chelmsford should keep an eye on it. So certainly when developers do come before us, they obviously give us a lot more leverage and a lot sharper teeth. But keep in mind that we are going to possibly need some housing in the future as well.
Hank, you had a question?
Yeah, can we retain, like, make regulations so we don't have to do a lot of negotiations, like, like, say you adopt any new developments, retain 20% open space, or something of that nature, so,
We can do whatever we
can
want, but we
control-
gotta put it in front of town meeting.
Yeah.
that's what I mean, but
That'd
I'd
be
like to
like a
have rules
bylaw
and
change.
regulations that we want to keep in perpetuity instead of just negotiating every project, like, say 20% open space. I don't know if we have it, I looked for it, I couldn't find it.
No,
See,
but
the
there's a
other-
coverage
Is there?
requirement.
Yeah, so
So, I mean, there's already requirements in there for maximum coverage and,
in open space.
and,
And then-
yeah.
Per lot.
That might be tough to do too, because as,
not
as we've
specifically
found
called open
in the
space,
past,
but
that 80% of the town is non-conforming now.
Yeah.
So it's, you're asking for 20% of,
New development.
New
That's-
development.
If it's non-conform with a building on it, then that's a whole different animal.
right, but
Yeah.
So, I mean, a good example, which is likely surprising to many people, 152 Turnpike, it's 66% open.
That is?
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
That's
so,
right.
you know, that's a good
Yeah.
example
Yeah.
where, you know, let's assume it was just,
20,
it was
yeah.
new development,
Yeah,
it wasn't a house on it. I think a lot of people think that it's a lot
Yeah,
more
it's-
dense.
It does seem-
Yeah, but it is 66% open. So so the 20% that you bring up is deceiving. I mean, you may actually,
Right.
that may be too
So-
low.
You know, the other thing may be,
Of open space, not just yard.
Yeah, open, yeah.
Yeah,
Meaning
the other-
not building, not paving.
the other thing we may be thinking about too is allowing smaller lots and doing more open space type of things too. Like
Sort
if,
of
a-
cluster
like,
kind of
like a,
thing.
like a
Cluster.
developer's coming in with these 8 lots. If you wanna,
maybe drop the 10 acre down to 7 acres for the cluster.
You know,
Cluster
development.
subdivision,
do some
sure.
cluster,
Which
which,
Charles Way may be a good,
Which that
Which
would
might
be
be a
perfect
really
for that.
That's what I was
good
thinking
example
about,
for
right?
that.
Because honestly, he could go and say, you know what? I gotta pay so much more money for this road to get accepted, so I'm gonna squeeze in 2 more houses
Right.
to soften the blow. So
But
I
you-
think that open space percentage would help projects, new projects.
but if you're looking at that though, he's way over 20%
Oh, I
open
know, I'm
space.
just using
Yeah.
him because
Yeah.
he brought
But you,
it up.
but you take them lots, they're acre lots.
Yeah, he's got
and
huge
cut,
lots.
cut them down to 20,000 square foot lots and put a 4,000 square foot house on there. Your footprint is only 2,000 square feet.
Right.
Out of 20,000, that's 90%.
It's probably less than that because you
Yeah.
had 2 floors.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're 2,000 per floor,
And then
so
have
you
a
got
nice
4,000
big
square
chunk of
feet.
open land.
And you got, right,
and these are, yeah.
Yeah.
But
okay.
I'm just spitballing, because I agree
Yeah.
with Henry, we need to like,
We need to think outside the box.
yeah, we can, now's our opportunity to do what we kind of want to do.
So hopefully we've worked really hard to get to this position. We're in a lot better place than a lot of other towns are around. And I'm not even suggesting that we go the route that Evan says, but that's up to the board to decide whether you want to change the inclusionary housing. I'm saying just what we have now, we can start paying a little bit more attention to. You know, just a little bit more negotiation factors when they're looking for relief, that's all.
So along that line, do we want to take a look at the article on cluster development and see if there's anything we can do in that article to actually promote cluster
Well,
development?
that's what I was just saying, it's
Yeah.
10 acres now, there's not very many 10 acre pieces left in town.
Right.
So why not bring that down to 7 or
Yeah.
5 and encourage that?
Yeah.
And throw an affordability
if you wanted to.
thing in there with that, right?
Yep, yep.
You know,
Yeah.
something could be done, so why don't we,
Very well.
we'll think about that at one of the next meetings, we'll maybe sit down and, maybe put a committee together to try to figure that out and,
Be happy to take a look at it.
Yeah.
okay. Why don't we
I do
Yeah.
regs, you know.
Yeah. Why don't we think about that? Maybe we'll get Colleen to throw that on the agenda for the next meeting. There's gonna be a light meeting and,
Come on, we can't make it too easy on them. You gotta get a couple of controversial ones
Right.
here, so he's,
Colleen, for the next meeting, can you put it on our agenda that we're gonna talk about getting a study committee together for the cluster thing? To try to,
It may be as simple as you suggest. Reduce to 10 acres period, the
Right,
end.
it's simple.
Right.
You don't need a committee for that.
Well, no, but it'd
I know,
be
but-
nice to look and see how many pieces of property are out there and,
Yeah, that we could do.
you know, something like that.
Yeah.
Or have,
Yeah.
put it in as having a discussion.
A
instead of a
discussion, there you
committee.
go.
Okay,
And
discussion.
it
So do we
doesn't hurt,
also
and it
wanna-
doesn't hurt to have the public combine. put a little bit
Absolutely,
of input
absolutely.
in it.
Right.
I mean, for controversy, I thought you were going to talk about adult uses, marijuana.
Nah, not going there.
There's always a possibility, you know?
Okay, so here's something
Might
controversial.
not get another phone call. It would be good.
Do we also want to take a look at RM zoning in light of what we have seen for apartment complex developments, modern contemporary apartment complex developments?
Well, we did make a change already to allow multiple buildings. We did
That's
that
right.
Right.
last year, so we've taken a step in that direction.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that we've had enough headaches in the last couple of years
So I would
with
think
that.
it might work
that,
out to see what goes on with the master plan committee and maybe bring that
I
up
mean,
as,
we can wait on master plan, but that's 2 years out in terms of,
You were
don't
suggesting
having anything.
adding new RM? What were you? what were
well,
you-
I'm suggesting that we take a look at particularly the density within RM
I get you.
in light of what we are seeing,
Yeah, so
because,
most of the RMs are built out, and I'm not sure
That's
you're,
right.
I'm not sure there's no plan to create new RM districts. And then between Route 40 and UMass West, those will likely be, those aren't RM.
Those aren't
Yeah,
RM.
so,
yeah. So what we have approved in terms of higher density developments have all been under COID. And COID does not carry the same density requirements that RM zoning does. And COID really has no specific guidance around,
which kind
Density.
of goes back to Henry's
that's right,
notion.
which goes back to Henry's notion in terms of negotiations and trade-offs and such.
Right.
And frankly, I don't know if we even have any more RM that is buildable
None,
to worry about.
not really.
You know, is it irrelevant because, there's nothing else to be built?
right.
Or is it something that it's worth addressing modern development needs and providing some sort of guidance there that people can expect what we would put into other areas for a multifamily construction?
I would think if
I
we're
don't know.
mostly built out, somebody's coming in, it's gonna be like a Princeton, like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
And if we take and lever our negotiations a little bit more carefully, I think we can get to a lot of places that we want to be. And part of having this meeting today is to tell, so Evan can let builders know when they come in, say, hey,
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
this is what we're gonna be looking for in the future. We might be looking for, so think outside the box, give us a good presentation when you come in.
Exactly.
We might be looking for, if you want to do some affordable senior housing somewhere, the town is willing to look at that.
We will,
Okay.
we will also have the recommendations from the Route 40 committee.
Right. And we can listen
I
to
don't
that.
believe that I don't believe they should be presented to town meeting intact without work at this committee,
Okay.
because they are developed specifically for Route 40 and not for anything anywhere else. But they will certainly contain a lot of work to go forward with in terms of senior housing.
All right.
So
we get-
I have one question, Evan. Through ZBA, do towns get like a gold star to DCHD for actually meeting the mandate? I mean, is there?
For meeting 40B?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a
we
list
get
on the,
recognition that way. Obviously, that will get the word out to developers that.
there's a list on the state's website, and that list is ever-changing.
Yeah.
But there's no ceremonies.
No, but
They don't
gold star
give
would
it,
just.
they don't give us one of those great big checks.
Yeah, right.
No, in fact, along the lines of housing choice and the legislation that Henry mentioned, every year, although it doesn't go anywhere, every year there are rumblings of increasing the 10%.
Yeah.
So
Not surprised.
the point is that at a certain point, many communities will be over 10%.
Yeah.
And the state will eventually have to make another difficult decision if housing is still a crisis.
I should also say in the article from the Lowell Sun, Chelmsford got kudos for, the Mill Road development and some other,
We've done our fair share.
we got some recognition through the
Right,
papers
and again,
that we've
back to this
done.
board, I mean, this board spent a long time getting the zoning in place, making the tough decisions to get to 10%. Took a long time and a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we kind of kicked that around quite a bit.
Yep.
So we know what to look at, we know what we want to focus on. We'll
Glenn,
work on that in the next
can I-
few, yep.
Can I add a comment? Yeah, and this is just as a comment. I was taking a look at the old master plan today. So, along the lines of having achieved our 10%, I think we need to keep it in perspective that we now have our 10% of our housing as affordable, but we have somewhere up or down in the vicinity of 25% of our population that qualifies for it. So, just because we made our 10% doesn't mean that we've met the needs of the community. We've met the requirements of the law.
Okay.
A good point.
Yep,
Yeah.
good point. All right, so let's let that go. We'll keep this
We're
discussion
expanding on
up
both ends.
as we go forward on the things that we were talking about. We'll get on to the next topic, and this might take a little bit of time. We get a discussion of options to address the pre-existing non-conforming neighborhoods. You started on that a year ago, Nan, and you did a nice analysis of what actually is on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
I have some more stuff that I'm
Okay,
working on
I'd kind of
on
like
that.
to, as time goes on, when do we, how long do we have to get stuff ready for fall town meeting?
We usually will do a workshop in June or July,
Okay,
and we'll hold public hearings in late August and/or into September.
okay, so we got a
We have
fair
some
amount of time.
We have some time.
Okay, so what I'd like to do in the next, say, 4 meetings is pick out one neighborhood for each meeting and discuss how we want to change that neighborhood, what that neighborhood could need to bring it into conformity, or at least bring it into above the 50% conformity. Because right now, they're all like way below conformity. So,
So you're referring to a actual dimensional table changes.
dimensional table change,
Okay, so the reason I mention that is there's several other strategies which I'd like to
okay,
bring to the attention of the board. We don't need to do it tonight, I can write something up. But just in a quick summary, some of you may be familiar with what is referred to as the Blue Book. Have you guys ever seen that?
I can send it out.
It's a
Get
6 or
sent a copy.
7-page leaflet that documented the historical zoning changes as it pertains to single-family neighborhoods in town.
By year.
So it
Really?
gives the date that it was changed, and
Oh,
then
please.
the previous standards and the changed standards.
well, I remember that, you used to get that all the time.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
always used to send it out
So,
years and years
If-
ago.
If the primary goal is to simply reduce the burden on single-family homeowners in being non-compliant and having to go to the zoning board for special permits and variances, in lieu of physically changing the dimensional table or the zoning map, we may be able to just do basically a grandfather provision that says, if your lot and house existed at a certain date, the setbacks are of that date. And we could even put those dimensionals in a table into the zoning bylaw. That, to me, that would be a whole lot quicker and easier
Yep.
than the exercise you're referring to. I still think the exercise you're referring to is worthwhile, but for a different purpose.
Right.
More related to uses. For
Right, 'cause
example,
you're
there are
gonna-
neighborhoods
You're
off
gonna open up a
of.
lot more,
Yeah, but there are
opportunities
there are
and-
neighborhoods off of Middlesex Street that on the ground it's single family and two family, but it's zone industrial.
right.
And I think there's a lot of zoning conflicts
Yep.
on the zoning map that has nothing to do with, pre-existing non-conforming.
Yeah.
So I can write something up for you, give you an example, and then the board can figure out how you want to proceed.
All right, why don't we,
Glenn, I have a new tool at my disposal.
oh, boy.
Yeah, well, it is an oh boy. I've been working with Evan,
And Nathan.
and Nathan, on the historical preservation bylaw, to map out the properties that would potentially be affected by that bylaw, and the properties that have already taken advantage of the two-family split. Nathan has the ability to produce a zoning map showing each property and highlight those based on an Excel file I give him of properties.
Okay.
Which means I can select those properties based on whatever parameters we want from the assessor's database. All right? Now, what that means to you. Based on the zoning listed in the assessor's database and the lot size listed in the assessor's
You can pick
database,
that right apart.
I can pick it right apart and do a sort on those
Oh.
undersized lots, hand it over to Nathan, and he can give us a map that will show us at a glance
I
where
like
the
that.
neighborhoods are that are
Yeah,
I like that.
undersized. Oh,
I
you'll
like
love
that.
it.
Yeah.
Except for the zoning in the assessor's database is not correct.
It's been fixed.
It's
Oh,
been
has it?
fixed. Yeah,
Good.
yeah, it got fixed.
By Nathan?
They
By
did,
Frank.
they did
Frank.
some
Yeah, it
magic and
probably
mirrors.
took 'em
I
long
probably need a new
There were
copy because,
1,700.
yeah, there were a lot.
How, is it a lot of work to
No.
to do that? It's very easy then.
It's easy.
All right.
Yeah, it's actually easy. I do need a new copy of the database since it's been fixed, though.
Can you
because I'm
do a
sure that
little
the copy I
little
have-
sample of that for the next meeting,
Uh-huh.
just so we can see? All right, that'd be
Yeah,
nice.
This is cool stuff.
Yeah, I like the sounds of it. That'll make our job a whole lot easier.
Uh-huh.
A whole lot easier,
A whole lot easier.
right? And then we
Because
could,
at that point, we can also look at where's all the two families that aren't zoned two families and, think
Yeah.
about,
Okay.
should the neighborhood be zoned that way as opposed to,
so if you want,
whatever. I mean, we can take a
Yeah.
look at a lot of
As long as
things.
it's on the agenda, we can.
yeah,
That's right.
We got.
if
lot
you
of
want, Evan,
stuff.
why don't you get the list out to us prior to the next meeting?
Okay.
And why don't we throw on the agenda, and we'll pick out one neighborhood that you
Yeah.
can try, pick a neighborhood that,
Just unplug if you
It's interesting.
it's interesting.
Do you happen to have the Nathan's historical map?
No,
available?
not with us, no.
Okay, that's fine.
Nice.
Just wondering if you could bring it up. That's okay.
You wanna do like North Chelmsford?
This will give you the entire map.
Yeah.
Yeah, this will give you the map,
Okay.
and then we can
Why don't-
pick a
well,
neighborhood based on what we see on
Yeah.
that map.
Well, why don't we take a stab at
Yeah,
throwing a thing at North Chelmsford for the next meeting, and we'll
Yeah.
start at North Chelmsford. And then if we
Works for
look at
me.
Evan's thing that comes out, we might say, that's a better idea, scrap that, or scrap this and do that, or scrap this, whatever.
Whatever, that's why we have a discussion.
yeah,
Yeah, all right.
but
Meetings. minutes.
Yes.
Minutes of the meetings. We have meeting minutes, March 27th. Everybody taking a quick peek at them? Anybody see anything other than Hank wasn't there, but Hank was there?
He's there in spirit.
No, I wasn't there April 10th, you're right.
April 10th.
I was there
April
March.
10th was, I'm sorry.
Evan, weren't you away?
They're out of order.
Yeah?
No, they're not.
I was
March
away.
27th, I got it.
Oldest to newest.
Yep. Okay.
April
Would you
10th, I
accept the
think?
motion?
You weren't here for the master
You have
plan.
it.
All right, we got a
Second.
motion, we got a second, all those in
I
favor?
was not here for that meeting.
Aye, all right.
10th, I was not here.
That's
Minutes
for
of
March
the meeting.
22nd.
Looking out
For
for me.
April 10th. Everybody had a look at them.
Evan and Paige weren't here.
But I'll take credit if you want to give it to me.
We good for a motion?
I move.
Hold on.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Wait a minute, this ain't, hold on a minute.
Oh, all right, what are we doing?
6-0 vote on the BOS.
What's the issue?
Which one was it?
270, is it?
It was only 6 people here, though. 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 5 showing.
Yeah,
I'm not on that list.
okay. You want to change that and we'll vote on it?
You can vote on it. I'll
Vote it as amended.
Okay, we got a motion and a second.
Yeah,
Going
as
for it as
amended.
amended?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we got that. What's next on the list here?
I got one.
You do?
Yep.
You
Yeah.
got one?
Wait a minute, I have a
Second it.
question.
All those in favor?
Wait a minute, wait a minute.
Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Too late, too late,
Seconded is.
too late.
Has
You
it
gotta be
been
a little bit
voted on?
quicker.
Yep.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Let's throw it out, Nam. What would,
New business. I would like to put on the table a proposal that we have a committee liaison to the Board of Health. Because they've been futzing around with things that affect zoning.
what's everybody think about that? I'm there anyway.
It'd be good to know the specifics. I mean, because,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not zoning, planning related,
What's the sense?
Yeah.
It's not really
I
gonna
mean,
count
do you know, what are you referring to?
How about the changes we made at the special town meeting and the
Other than
interfaces? No, chickens, small animals and,
Well, I'm sure we could take and ask the Board of Health if they can send us their agenda.
Yeah, I've been, and have, yeah.
Just, you continue
I'm
to go.
tracking it anyway, as it turns out, so
yeah.
it doesn't matter. I'm gonna be there no matter what.
All right. Well, we can't get into
And then I go
it.
catch the
I
selectmen.
don't, I mean, unless the planning board says they want to go revisit small animals.
Yeah,
I don't
well,
think we want to.
Had enough
We
of the
want as
chickens.
far
No.
away, we want to be as far away from that.
We
as
can't
can
get into
No.
it too much because we already closed the meeting.
Right.
So
That's right.
we'll save that for another time.
All right, have a discussion next time then.
All right,
Very good. Now the
we're all done.
biggest decision.
Yeah,
Where we going?
someplace.